Welcome to Xogot's modular series on 3D game development. This video will introduce the camera 3D and how to use it. Now, if you have a scene that's all set up with whatever's going on in your environment, your player, you have some lighting, but you try to preview without actually adding a camera, then you'll just see whatever your clear color is for the scene from the project settings. And that's just because Godot doesn't know where to look until we tell it to with the camera 3D. Now, when you're adding a camera 3D, a lot of the time we'll actually add it as a child of a marker 3D. And the marker 3D just acts as a pivot, and it allows you to control the camera rotation and other camera behaviors through the script later on, assuming that you add a camera script. And it just makes the more complex movements a lot easier to implement, though it's not something that's necessary if your camera is going to be stationary. So once I have the pivot, then I'll go into adding the 3D camera. And now it's the child of my pivot here. Now, when the camera is active over in the inspector, I can see the preview of my camera, so what the camera is looking at. I can use the widget to adjust the camera view and rotation, and sometimes that works really well. I can also use the transform settings further down in the inspector, but I'm going to, first of all, take a moment to change my viewport from the single view to the stacked view. And this is really helpful because I can turn on the preview and just see it a little bit larger. And I can also, over in the other view, just adjust this to whatever I want the camera to actually be looking at. Maybe something like this for the view. And over here, I can come into this little menu, and for whatever is active, I can align the transform with the current viewpoint. And so now my camera is looking at this specific view that I had chosen previously. I can still make adjustments to the location, but that can give you an easy starting point to get to the view that you're looking for. Now when I play the game, I can just move my player. We can see everything going on in the scene. And I want to mention my player just has the default player movement script from the character controller, and it also has the virtual controls enabled. All right, now maybe I want my camera to follow the player. So I can actually grab my pivot and just drag and drop it to be a child of the player instead. And now when I play through, the camera is following the player movement. All right, now that we're out of the game preview, I just want to go over the different options that we have in the inspector. So the culling mask determines whether you can see the layers in the camera or not. So I only have objects on layer 1 currently, and so I can toggle the visibility of that on and off. If I head further down, let's take a moment to go over the projection settings. We have perspective, and this allows us to see things in perspective. So things look small in the distance, they look larger up close. We have a field of view setting, which sort of represents the angle that you're looking from. And so we can actually use that to get closer or further away. And you'll notice that the perspective might be more extreme or less extreme with certain fields of view. And you might also get a little bit of distortion. Now, we also have orthogonal, which is quite different because everything stays the same size visually. Things don't look like they're getting smaller as they're getting farther away. So next up we have frustum, and this one we still are looking in perspective. So things are larger up close, smaller as they're getting farther away, but this is based on the frustum of the camera, which is sort of a pyramid shape with the point cut off coming out from the camera. And so very similar to perspective, but based on that particular spacing. And the frustum has some additional manual customization that you can do for scripting the camera in the future. So 3 different options there. I'm just going to set that back to perspective. All right, now underneath that area, we have some settings to control the range that the camera can look at. So how close can the camera see? And then how far away the camera can see. So sort of the clipping distance for the camera. All right, I do want to mention we have some additional settings up at the top. For the aspect ratio, we can choose this to keep the same height or keep the width. And we have some additional settings over in the window settings for our project in terms of the size of the camera, how it's going to behave, several different options for the aspect ratio, stretch modes, and all sorts of things over here. So have some fun experimenting, and we'll be back with more 3D videos.